Today on TimesCast, the Federal Reserve announced interest rates will remain at exceptionally low levels for another 2 years. 10,000 extra police officers are deployed after riots spread to 4 British cities.
This is criminality, pure and simple.
And Republican presidential candidate Tim Pawlenty looks for support from evangelical Christians ahead of Saturday's straw poll in Iowa.
So I want to invite you to continue to stand strong for life.
After all the weak economic numbers and the big sell-off in the markets, the Fed had to do something, and today it did. After its meeting, the Fed put out a statement with much tougher language. It downgraded its assessment of the economy, in line with all the figures we've been seeing about the jobs market and the housing market, but committed itself to exceptionally low interest rates through to 2013. That means interest rates are now going to stay low, close to zero, through past the next election. It's sort of moving the Fed past the next election cycle for the presidency. This will help businesses and consumers and households get through this really painful period in the economy now. But there were signs of dissent. 3 members of the Fed committee said they were not happy keeping interest rates this low, presumably because they fear inflationary pressures could build. And that's just a sign of how complicated the economic picture is now.
The British government adds 10,000 police to the streets in hopes of quelling a 4th night of rioting.
It was a stunned Britain that awoke on Tuesday morning to survey the extent of damage from the worst social unrest in this country for at least 25 years. Rioting had run out of hand across 12 communities and possibly more in London. Huge damage done.
I don't know why people, oh my God.
The rioting had spread to at least 4 other major cities in the country. Overnight, Prime Minister Cameron had ended his vacation in Tuscany in Italy and flown back. He appeared outside his headquarters in 10 Downing Street in London and announced that he was summoning Parliament back into session on Thursday from its summer recess.
This is criminality, pure and simple, and it has to be confronted and defeated.
Many people in Britain feel it's too early at this point to come to any conclusions about the causes of all of this. But there are some interesting aspects to the debate that has already begun. The principle amongst these is that the police, who have so often in the past been accused of overreacting and indeed of brutality, have on this occasion been accused very widely by community leaders in the affected areas of having underreacted. It's not, as it has so often been in the past, for provoking all of this, although it did begin with the shooting of a young black man at Mark Duggan. Now, of course, underlying all of this, there is social deprivation, there is severe failures in the education system, and above all, there's joblessness. So it's a complicated puzzle, and it will take quite a time to work through.
And former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty tries to gather support before the Ames straw poll on Saturday. The Republican poll is not an official part of the nomination process, but it gives an idea about how viable a candidate is.
There was a lot of talk now with this economic downgrade about faith in our currency, full faith and credit of our money. We should put our full faith and credit in God and in the American people.
We're here in Iowa, where it's an important week for Tim Pawlenty as he heads to the straw poll. It's a critical moment for his campaign as he hopes to build support heading into the Iowa caucuses. And the way he's going to do that, in part, is by appealing to the evangelical community.
Family value issues, marriage, and the right to life. 2 big issues with me. Right now, if I had to vote today, I'd vote for Tim Pawlenty.
It's been a long-standing effort by him to kind of reach out to this community, made more difficult, though, by the presence of Michelle Bachmann.
I thank you, O God, for hearing this prayer and for blessing the United States.
In past years, they've been a very vocal, very active group. Mike Huckabee in 2007 rallied those voters, came in second in the Iowa straw poll, and then went on to win the caucuses.
We like Mike! We like Mike!
Bob Vanderplaats, a leader in the Iowa faith community who also helped manage Mr. Huckabee's campaign, said he hasn't endorsed anyone, but seems to really like Tim Pawlenty.
Well, Governor Pawlenty is a guy that has a Huckabee-like characteristic. He wears very well on people.
For Mr. Pawlenty, who is from neighboring Minnesota, He's always had, by and large, an Iowa focus. The campaign had said that they would focus on the early states. That has now become a singular focus on Iowa. He's struggled to raise money, struggled to move up in the polls, and so has essentially decided that it's a sort of make or break moment for him, not only here in Iowa, but even more specifically at the straw poll. If he does very poorly, it's going to be very hard to raise money. It's going to be very hard to build the kind of support that he needs going forward into the caucuses and beyond. So for Tim Pawlenty, a very, very important week as we head into the straw poll.
So I want to invite you to continue to stand strong for life. I want to invite you to continue to stand strong for traditional marriage. It's right for our country. It's right for our society. It's right for our culture. And it's the right thing to do for America.